The United States Navy's aircraft carrier, USS Abraham Lincoln, deployed near Iran, was hit by the Iranian Navy's missiles. State media reported on Thursday. The USS Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier was struck by drones of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps Navy. A spokesperson for the Kedem Alambia Central Headquarters told Press TV. The USS Abraham Lincoln hosts multiple squadrons of fighter aircraft, including F-35 Lightning II fighter jets and F/A-18 Super Hornet fighter jets. The carrier, along with 3 guided missile destroyers, had been in the Arabian Sea since the end of January, after being redirected from the South China Sea. The Iranian military's claim of a strike targeting the U.S. aircraft carrier comes days after an American submarine sank an Iranian warship in the Indian Ocean. Sri Lanka's Navy recovered 80 bodies and rescued 32 Iranian sailors from the Iris Dina, which sank in international waters off the coast of the island nation. Rare instance of a submarine torpedoing a ship since World War II. Earlier in the day, the Iranian military claimed that naval missiles hit an American oil tanker in the Persian Gulf, triggering a fire on the vessel. The assault on commercial shipping in Gulf waters showed no signs of letting up as the U.S.-Iran conflict entered its 5th day. With more vessels coming under attack, a Bahamas-registered crude oil tanker became the latest victim after an explosive remote-controlled boat believed to have been deployed by Iranian force rammed into the vessel while it was anchored near Iraq's Khor al-Zubair port. In addition, a second tanker, anchored off the Kuwaiti coast, suffered a massive explosion on its port side, causing the ship to take on water and leak oil into surrounding Gulf waters. The 2 incidents bring the total number of vessels targeted to 9 since clashes broke out between the United States, Israel, and Iran on Saturday, sending shockwaves through global shipping and energy markets. The toll on regional shipping has been severe. Tracking data from the Marine Traffic Platform estimated that roughly 200 vessels, including oil tankers, liquefied natural gas carriers, and cargo ships remained stranded at anchor in open Gulf waters, unwilling or unable to move. Hundreds more sat waiting outside the Strait of Hormuz, the narrow but critical choke point through which approximately 1/5 of the world's oil and LNG supply passes. Unable to reach their destination ports, the disruption to energy flows has had an immediate and sharp impact on commodity markets. Oil prices climbed a further 3% on Thursday alone, extending a rally that has now pushed crude prices more than 14% higher since the conflict began, a staggering rise driven by fears of prolonged supply disruption from one of the world's most energy-critical regions. Reportedly, the targeting of Gulf countries and disruption of energy markets was part of a plan devised by the late Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Forces have been executing a plan devised by Ali Khamenei and Iran's top commanders to sow chaos across the Middle East, create upheaval in global markets, then raise the stakes in the hope of pressuring the U.S. and Israel to halt their attack. According to the Financial Times, the Supreme Leader, who was killed in the first wave of strikes on Tehran on Saturday, and his lieutenants began working on a detailed plan after Israel's devastating 12-day war against the Islamic Republic in June 2025. This plan included attacks on energy facilities and strikes that would cause disruptions to air travel in the region. The report said that the plan has been implemented despite Khamenei's death and that of at least half a dozen top Iranian military and intelligence officials, including the defense minister and head of the elite Revolutionary Guards, in the massive bombardment by the U.S. and Israel on Monday. As markets reopened after the weekend, the regime dramatically escalated its response by targeting energy facilities in the oil-rich Gulf, firing drones at a critical gas facility in Qatar and one of Saudi Arabia's biggest refineries. This caused Qatar, one of the world's top suppliers of liquefied natural gas, to stop supplies. Oil and gas prices surged as shipping through the Strait of Hormuz slowed to a halt in the days since the U.S. and Israel launched their war. Iranian drones have also struck hotels, airports, from ports, in countries including Qatar, the United Arab Emirates, Kuwait, Iraq, Oman, and Bahrain. Iran has launched barrages of missiles and drones at U.S. bases across the region and is suspected to have struck a UK base in Cyprus. The tactics reflect lessons from the war. In June 2025, when Iran was stunned by Israel's depth of intelligence penetration and its ability to assassinate top military commanders in the first hours of that conflict, this time, Iran began rapidly retaliating after Khamenei and top defense officials were killed. Its proxies, which sat out the June war, have also joined the conflict. Hezbollah launched missiles at northern Israel, threatening a new war in Lebanon. And Iraqi militias targeted a U.S. base in northern Iraq. Pro-Iranian supporters have also attempted to storm the Green Zone, home to Western embassies in the Iraqi capital. The widening regional conflict is what many feared was the worst-case scenario after Hamas's October 7, 2023, attack on Israel killed 1,200 people, the biggest single killing of Jews since the Holocaust. While that attack triggered waves of conflict in Gaza, Lebanon, Yemen, and between Israel and Iran, the Islamic Republic had sought to calibrate its involvement, calculating that keeping the fight away from its shores was the best way to ensure regime survival. But the calculus changed after the Israeli and U.S. strikes in June, with analysts suggesting America and Israel have triggered the regional war, which Hamas once wanted on their own terms. The FT report said Khamenei expected to be killed and to die as a martyr, staying in his compound in Tehran with members of his family, despite the looming threat of an attack. That meant putting in measures to ensure that the regime could continue to project stability domestically and escalate its response to US and Israeli attacks. It is now the Revolutionary Guards overseeing military operations, with forces led by Major General Ahmad Vahidi, who replaced the force's top commander after he was killed on Saturday. The result is a spiraling conflict that threatens to pull in more countries. The Middle East is on edge as attacks intensify against Gulf states following U.S. and Israeli strikes on Iran after a drone attack on the U.S. embassy in Riyadh. Now Saudi Arabia claims its air defense system intercepted cruise missiles en route to the kingdom. The Saudi Defense Ministry claimed 2 cruise missiles were intercepted over an area south of the capital Riyadh. Additionally, a separate drone attack was thwarted, according to a Times of Israel report citing Saudi media. Without naming Iran, the Saudi Arabian Defense Ministry said 2 cruise missiles were destroyed in the Al-Kharj district. The Saudi press agency, citing a ministry spokesman, reported that 9 drones were intercepted and destroyed immediately upon entering the kingdom's airspace. Iran began hitting targets in Israel, as well as U.S. military assets in Gulf states after the joint U.S.-Israeli strikes on February 28 and the killing of Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei on March 3. The U.S. Embassy in Saudi Arabia came under a drone attack launched by Iran. America's Central Intelligence Agencies, stationed inside the U.S. Embassy in Riyadh, was also hit by a suspected Iranian drone. Saudi Arabia's Defense Ministry said the embassy was hit by 2 drones, which resulted in a limited fire and some material damage. In a sharp escalation, Iran also targeted energy installations in Saudi Arabia. Iranian drones targeted the Ras Tanura refinery, one of the world's largest oil export facilities, owned by Saudi Aramco. The Saudi Defense Ministry said 2 drones were intercepted over the refinery, but falling debris caused a fire. Saudi Defense Ministry spokesman Major General Turki al-Maleki told Al Arabiya TV that debris from an intercepted drone caused a limited fire at the facility. Aramco said the refinery was temporarily shut down following the strike. Ras Tanura produces more than 550,000 barrels per day and serves as a critical Iran reportedly carried out a drone strike on America's CIA station in Saudi Arabia. A source familiar with the matter told Reuters that the CIA facility inside the U.S. Embassy in Riyadh was hit by a suspected Iranian drone. The source further told Reuters that there was no indication the station was the target. The embassy in Riyadh is among the U.S. sites hit so far in the conflict. Saudi Arabia's defense ministry said the embassy was hit by 2 drones, which resulted in a limited fire and some material damage. A State Department memo said the strike collapsed part of the roof of the embassy, and that embassy personnel should continue to shelter in place. The Washington Post reported the memo did not mention if any CIA personnel were wounded, and officials declined to comment on the situation. Subsequently, Washington's mission in the kingdom warned Americans to avoid the embassy until further notice due to an attack on the facility. On March 3, the U.S. mission canceled routine and emergency U.S. citizen services appointments, saying in a security alert, "There is a threat of imminent missile and UAV attacks over Tehran. Do not come to the U.S. consulate." The attack on the CIA facility may be significant to an embattled Iranian regime that has long viewed the American spy agency as its ultimate foe. Meanwhile, following the intensified Iranian attacks, the Saudi cabinet said in a statement they will take all necessary measures to defend its security and protect its citizens and residents. This comes as Iranian missiles and drones target key oil and other facilities in Riyadh and other parts of the kingdom. Saudi Arabia's Ministry of Energy said 2 Iranian drones were intercepted near the Ras Tanura oil refinery, with debris causing minor damage, according to the state-run Saudi press agency. This follows Iran's alleged attack on Saudi oil giant Saudi Aramco. Iran's Tansim news agency quoted a military source as saying the attack on Aramco was an Israeli false flag operation, as Israel's goal is to distract the minds of regional countries from its crimes in attacking civilian sites in Iran. The drone attack came after the U.S. and Israel launched an attack on Iran early on February 28. The waves of strikes killed Iran's Supreme Leader Khamenei and scores of its senior military and political command, as well as civilians, including school children, prompting fierce retaliation by the Islamic Republic. The Iranian forces and IRGC have been ferociously targeting U.S. and Israeli targets in the region, as well as those of Gulf partners, according to the Washington Post, citing Central Command. Iran has attacked over 1,250 targets since the war began. Iranian missiles and attack drones have struck Kuwait, Qatar, Israel, the United Arab Emirates, and other locations including civilian targets.